Nerds Out of Water is a podcast brought to you by two tech professionals, that's us, and long-term friends, that's also us. Michael Lobb, that's me, and David Camus, that's the other guy. Both of us have worked in various technical careers and have switched to running our own businesses, taking each of us out of our little fish ponds and into the big ocean of sharks. David runs One Bright Cloud, where he has a view towards a future where AI is commonplace and autonomous vehicles provide transportation to your location with the smallest energy footprint.
Thank you, Michael. And I shouldn't have taken a mouthful of tea just before that one. Michael runs TeamScale, whose mission it is to reduce risk in software development projects. This allows him and his team members and the visionary founders and talented developers around him to deliver amazing software on time and on budget. From time to time, we'll be joined by guests ranging from business owners and managers to technologists, and every role in between.
We challenge our own perspectives, at least we try to, and we give each other the opportunity to see things from each other's perspective. You don't always need to agree with us, but after listening to this podcast, it's our aim that you'll definitely have an idea. David, who do you have today that we're talking to?
Today we have back one of our favourite guests. I shouldn't say favourite, should I? Anyway, one of our guests we learnt last time, she is a change whisperer. She works for a large change company that she owns and directs and operates around the world. Today, I would like to introduce back to us, Michelle Delabert. Michelle, welcome back. How have you been?
I am awesome.
Change whisperer, that's what you were, that's what you are. How has change whispering been going on over the last few months?
Well, David, it's been, I think that the grand scheme of rip the rug out change philosophy has been once and for all proven to be the best possible method thanks to COVID.
Change practice 101, rip the plug out.
Rip the rug out.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's like, well, lots of people pay a lot of money to get things done with, lots of change managers making everyone feel great about things. And really, I think COVID's really had the opportunity to prove to people they're quite capable of change when they have no choice.
Yep.
But by and large, 90% of people, let's say, there's always going to be those that resist, that think that they can do things the way that they always have and that the world isn't changing. But, that's unavoidable. For the most part, though, I think we're seeing great evidence that people are adaptable, that they find their own path. I guess equally so, there's a bunch of evidence to say that people are getting bothered by the change as well from a mental health perspective, as well as different impacts across the globe, right? I think we're so lucky and so protected and insulated here in Australia.
We are.
Yeah. I saw someone the other day it was an interview with someone who was in New Zealand, and they said that because of their experience, they couldn't empathise with people in, say, the UK or in India. And it's really difficult for them to understand why they're complaining or why they're going crazy. But we've had it really lucky over this side of the world.
Yeah, I think that's right, Michael. I do business with clients across the globe, and so the one thing that I feel kind of blessed about is that I have had great insight into what is going on across the world all the way through this, and it's grounding. It makes me concerned because when one of the things that's changed for me is I'm spending more time on the Sunshine Coast at the moment, and
that's a problem. let me just clarify, is that a problem that you're spending more time on the Sunshine Coast?
Not for me, David. That's another story, but we might come back to that, or we might.
Sorry, I interrupted
you. Anyway, that's okay. But so even though I've got to work on the Sunshine Coast, the people around here, they're oblivious. So you might recall a few weeks ago, not too long ago, we had a situation in Queensland where Greater Brisbane got locked down for, I don't even know what it was, a week or 5 days or something. And we were not impacted on the Sunshine Coast. In fact, my husband was down in our Brisbane house. I got the message that it was all going to close down. I said, "Get out of there!
Get out of there!"
Yes, but the funny thing about that 3-day weekend, and it was only 3 days that we went into lockdown, all the shops were emptied. Going to have no shops for 3 days. So the toilet rolls, the jams, the butter, the milk, everything disappeared from the shops again.
Well, I think there is some concern that a lockdown is extendable. But surely, so if there's one thing I guess that we can say for sure is that even though people are willing to change, they don't necessarily retain the skills of how they got through it the first time.
Yep.
So we know for a fact that the Woolworths and Coles of the world were slow off the mark to respond to this awesome opportunity for their business by bolstering their deliveries. But now it's pretty normal, and they've got plenty of drivers, and so there's been a whole community that has shifted in that space. And yet still we see this whole idea of the minute that something's going to be locked down, we've got to run out to the shop where we're going to get most exposure and strip the shelves of
Fill the car
toilet paper. Why not the chocolate?
Well, apparently the wine shops were fine. There's plenty of wine, plenty of alcohol, because they precursed it. But
They thought forward.
See, it wasn't in February, so it wasn't it wasn't in dry February or anything. So I think it is interesting that people still have difficulty responding to the change or maintaining some awareness of why that change happened, and that, so now Brisbane's back into normality, Queensland normality, and I'm seeing people sort of reaching out to shake hands again. It's like, no, here's my elbow. Yeah, and I feel like we still aren't quite taking it seriously, and maybe that is because we are so well insulated. I know, David, for example, you have family in the UK, so I'm sure that you are maintaining a finger on the pulse. I don't know what your situation is, Michael, but it is. I feel blessed when I get to say, I know what's going on in Peru. I know what's going on in Chile. I've got friends in the States. I've got so many people who are keeping me informed. South Africa, these guys just seem to never get out of lockdown. The minute they're out, they're back in again.
Exactly.
Well, the last time we spoke, I was saying that I didn't know anyone who had COVID. And now I'd have to say that I know 20 or 30 people, family members, family friends who have all got COVID in Europe and in the UK, and it's a hard time. Glad to say my father, though, and I believe your father's in Perth, but my father has had both shots of his vaccine and very, very happy.
That's cool. That's good. Yeah, my dad's in Adelaide.
Adelaide, not Perth. My apologies.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And he's going through some interesting challenges at the moment, but I think he came up at Christmas time, so talking about things that changed for me, it was wonderful to see him. I was really disturbed by how his mental health had deteriorated since I'd seen him in July. And there's no question that the isolation that has been caused by COVID and, him not being able to get out on the golf course as often and do the things that he would normally do, even just to drive down and go sit in the coffee shop and have a coffee and speak to the shopkeeper, has impacted his ability to process. So his mental capacity, I think there's more dementia showing, and it's a bit sad, really. I can only imagine that that's happening to a lot of older folk who aren't getting anywhere near the interaction that they used to.
In the same respect, I think there's a lot of those people who have embraced the side of technology to enhance their connectivity to other people. I've seen a lot of people who previously were just not interested in having even a phone. Now they're doing Facebook calls and things like that. So, in some ways it's some people are able to embrace that change, but other people, like you said, they may prefer their older routine that kept them sane.
Yeah, or don't even have the skill they don't know how to make that change, or can't easily retain how to make the change. That's the thing I remember when my mother had a stroke about maybe 15 years ago now, God rest her soul, and she struggled then. I came into this world of new knowledge to me where remote controls were too small and too complex, and phones were too complex and too big, and everything was such a challenge for Rita then because of this. And I can see a similar thing for my dad going on. And whilst on the one hand, Michael, I think we can say we've got all this technology that is that available to us to make life easier, it's only easier if we are able to embrace that. And not everybody has those skills or availability.
That's right.
And some of the usability.
The mobile phone. She would grab the phone, lift it up, and it would, as soon as she put it to her ear, she'd cut us off. But yeah, it depends on where you are. Sorry, Michael.
Was that because she was speaking into an air conditioning remote?
Yes.
David, can you hold that up again? Can you hold that up again?
Could or could not.
Hello?
Got it.
Can I have some cool air, please?
This is David and his technology. Industry 4.0. The
Michael,
remote does everything.
Michael, pointing case right there.
Yeah, there you go. I've taken a screenshot of that, David.
Yes. So can I just confirm you two? You've now picked on my age. You're now picking on my ability with technology. It's lucky I've got incredible people around me who know all the technology, isn't it?
That's right. And thick skin.
And thick skin.
But Michael,
and you know that we're only joking.
Now, moving right along, should we start talking about technology? Have you changed any tools that you've utilised over this period?
Yes. Am I liking it? Not particularly. So we, because we do so much business, we're always on one VC or another. And for a long time, we were Google Meet. It's just so easy. Like really, it's got to be the easiest thing. Click a button. But many of our clients have started locking that port right down, and they can't get onto Google Meet right now. So we've shifted. And also, we wanted to be able to record more of our meetings, and we don't want to subscribe to a higher subscription. Don't want to pay. So because we already have Microsoft, so we've switched over to Teams. Now, David, you'll recall that we had a great time implementing Teams and SharePoint and other kind of cool tools.
There has been many times we've integrated SharePoint and the like, I'm fairly sure I'm on the same wavelength, yes?
Yes, and you know which projects we've done that on. And so in any case, we were reasonably successful, and I don't think that I'm an idiot and can't retain how to do things, but Teams sucks. It is so difficult to get around now. It's like and every month, like it changes. Suddenly everything's so much easier for me. We're saving everything to OneDrive. Well, great, except that we use Dropbox. So I don't want your OneDrive.
Don't save it to OneDrive. Save it to Dropbox.
It
Save it to your
automatically-
desktop.
It automatically saves it to OneDrive. You can share a
Perfect.
link.
And the
No,
problem
you
in that
can't.
is-
Yes, no, you can't. No, it's so many steps to get to where you want to be. So on the one hand, we're loving it because we can record, we go back and revisit things, we can share the recordings eventually with our clients so that they can watch them again to either see parts of the demonstration, or if it's a training session, it's all recorded, all those sorts of things. So on that hand, delighted. On this hand of how to kind of get around the system and navigate all that change, still not delighted. It's like the developers need to get out for a walk, but they must be all locked down at the moment, so they've lost sight of who the users are and how these systems are being used. And I just think Microsoft, quite frankly, is getting further away from the delight that they used to deliver to their clients. I have been using
Sorry,
Microsoft
can I just
products
ask you further away?
way
Were
further
they ever
away.
that close?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to their corporate
now I would
users,
say
yeah,
that
absolutely.
I'd have to go back. I think 30 years ago, sorry, but that's what when Microsoft was the leading edge of Office-based products, they really maintained that edge for a long time. And then I think, I don't know, they just felt like they had to keep reinventing the wheel so that people will keep buying new subscriptions and might buy new software, and they take stuff out and put stuff in. And I just think it's stripped away to a point. On one hand, I think it's stripped away to a point where it's not giving the service that's required. And on the other hand, it's becoming too complicated to actually navigate.
Yeah.
This is brought to you by
I do think that they're
Windows
on
95.
I do think that they're on their way back
Or
up,
on-
though. Like, I think they're getting closer to to usability that is going to improve. And I know that from their cloud-based services. When Azure first came out, it was terrible to navigate and terrible to work through. Now it's actually usable, and it's probably, in terms of usability, better than, say, AWS or Google. But in saying that, I do use Teams and I do use Office, but everything mostly is in the Google environment. So, I use Google Docs, I use Google Hangouts. And speaking of recording videos, we had the same issue, so we've purchased a Zoom subscription, and
Yeah,
we just use that.
man, should have bought Zoom shares.
Oh,
Really, that's. I
if
mean,
my
what a
father-in-law hasn't told me that 300 times. Did you buy
Right,
Zoom
what-
chairs?
yeah, what an amazing story for them.
What about on the financial side of things? So, finance software, accounting software, and things like that. Have you seen people moving to the cloud-based systems? Or
Oh yes, yeah, good question. Thanks, Michael. So I helped a client move their actually get themselves a bookkeeping system for the first time ever. So that was
Wow.
quite nice. And it is a free service. Unfortunately, they've decided to stop providing support to anyone outside of Canada. That's Wave, which is a shame because it's a great system. And anyway, they're not forcing us off yet. I'm sure that'll come. And they're trying to push us onto Zoho. I wouldn't touch Zoho with a 20-metre barge pole. I think their CRM is absolute rubbish. And I couldn't be bothered wasting my time on investigating whether Zoho accounting package is going to be any good for us, considering all I really want is Wave. So I think that there's lots of people getting onto cloud-based systems now with their accounting packages. They're getting simpler, but they're still too expensive in my view. But, there seems to be this idea. We have this conversation around here a lot, whether it's to do with sport or it's to do with software, that the business models that they're putting in place and the pricing structures that they put in place are blockers to doing more business. So let's have a look at sport for a second. Sorry, I know you want to talk about technology, but
No, sport's
please.
great. I
Let's
don't
look
watch
at
sport.
sport.
I know,
Yeah.
that's boring. Let's talk about sport.
So,
Did you see the GGs this weekend?
so you saw how interesting the response was. I'm sure you all were across the AFL response last year, and I think what a great job they did of relocating their business so it could continue, and they delivered a pretty good product. Now they lost out on a lot of ticket pricing, but if you want to go to the footy, the AFL, you need to be a rich person indeed, or a member, both of which, sort of, it's $50 a ticket. That's expensive. So it's not really any wonder then that for the most part their crowds are diminishing and people aren't getting off the couch, COVID notwithstanding. On the other hand, the women's AFL has this year for the first time introduced pricing for ticketing. Up to this year, it had been free to attend. Their crowds had been building and building and building. Their product is getting better and better. And now they charge the princely sum of $10 a ticket. Now, that's awesome. That's completely affordable. That means that you, with David, with your tribe of kids, can get along to a women's AFL match and afford
For
to
under
not only-
$1,000.
Yeah, that's right. Not only afford to
Thanks
get
for
them
that.
through the gate, but you can buy them a pie and chips and a Coke as well. Right? So now going back to the question at hand, technology, I just don't get it. I don't get why MYOB thinks its product is so fantastic. It's going to go the way of the dinosaurs like others eventually. I don't understand why Xero thinks it has to peg its price to MYOB. I don't understand why they think that they can get away with this sort of stuff. I resent every time, and I'm sure I'm not alone, looking at my bill and looking at all these blessed subscriptions I now have to carry on an annual basis in order to get business done.
Yeah.
Whereas previously I could buy something and amortise my cost maybe over 5 years. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost forcing us to say...
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
I mean, I remember buying the packaged product for under $200, and that was for a small business. Now we're paying, I think it's $900 a year for Xero,
Right.
and it's like, but where did that come from?
Yeah.
It is expensive, and
Yep.
sure, is it saving me $900 a year in my time? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But when you compare it to, you said you could probably get two or maybe 3 years out of a older package software, and it's changed so much that again, same with Adobe Suite. Sure, it was like $1,000 to buy that up front with all of the stuff that you needed, but now we're paying $70, $80 a month subscription, which is again about $900 to $1,000 a year. But you used to use that over 3 or 4 year period before you'd upgrade, and you just get used to that.
Mm-hmm.
But
And then
we used to use MYOB plus payroll, and the last time we used it, we brought the full package, obviously, and after that 2 to 3 year point, they stopped supporting it, and you had to move up into the cloud.
Yeah.
And if you didn't pay the subscription for the cloud, you didn't get the tax updates, which becomes a real problem for us, well, for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. If you've got any sort of payroll, number of people on the payroll, it's a pain in the backslide. If you don't have, you can get around it. If it's a small number, you can do your calculations, but it's still time. Now, Michael, a question for you. You said, if you're just going back to you paying MYOB or whoever around $900, do you also have an accountant that you pay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. So here's what I reckon accountants should be doing is going, guys, you should be sticking to your core business. Let us handle it all. They can pay for the subscription. Let them do the bookkeeping. It's kind of moving to that I think it's a reasonable business model, because the problem is that you start to pay this extra money and you still have to have an accountant. Now, if you're saving money on the accountant, that's fine. But if you're not only paying the accountant, now having to spend a bit more time because you're using things you probably don't need to use in the system because it's add-ons and you feel like you have to because you're now paying $900 a year. There's all of those sorts of things. So I think it's some of this sort of stuff sort of plays, it gets in your head. You go, well, I must do things differently. I must use more of it because otherwise I'm not getting value for money. Goodness knows, SAP, who I've always preferred to refer to as SAP, they have for a long time been sapping the money out of people because they suck the life out of you. It's bespoke and you have to keep improving. You have to keep investing because otherwise you're paying such a fortune for an enterprise resource system that is not necessarily giving you return on investment. So let's just chuck another $1 million into the can and see if we can actually figure out that reporting stream. So I just don't think the dynamic between technology and the end user experience and what they're actually wanting to get out of things is quite reconciled yet. I'm sure it'll get there. But
I totally agree with you.
On good news,
people don't often know what they want before they go out and get something like SAP or even an accounting system. They just don't understand their requirements first, and they think, oh, well, I need this because blah blah blah. But then they invest a certain amount of money in it, and then it's like, well, we've put that much money into it, so we need to keep improving and improving and improving it because we don't want to lose out on our investment, even if they don't need it.
And your accountants are now saying, is it in Xero? Is it in MYOB? Which one is it in? Because we only specialise in this one. So that starts pushing you into a way, and that means you have to buy that product rather than say, here's my paperwork, see you later. But Michael, you do this with a CIO role. You do CIO, TeamScale do.
Yeah.
We take off you take off the capabilities of that CIO role and you give it to TeamScale, who manage the information, who manage the technology. We do that.
The technology
yourself
side
and
of things,
myself, Michelle. That's right. And Michelle and I have done this with change management. We bring in a team of people. Don't you have that core team in-house? Because you don't need all of the skills. You don't need everybody to know ADCAR, ProSci, Prince2, Agile, anything else that's around, the PMBOK people. We have those skills. And we'll bring a team in, we'll do your piece of work, and we'll move out.
Yeah, absolutely. On good news, though, on the technology front.
Yes.
Now that I've spent considerable time bagging technology. The Corporate Growing Pains website is reinvigorated. That's corpgrowingpains.com. And so I built the website using Wix, which I'm pretty happy with. That was an easy system to use, really quite both simple with some nice pieces of sophistication to make it, look nice, which is better still than what Google can offer in their sites. I'm looking forward to them maybe investing a bit more energy so I can get more value out of my Google subscription, my G Suite subscription, that is. But for the time being, I can utilise that. So I'm pretty happy with that. So there's been changes on the technology front for us.
Just to confirm, Michelle, that is corpgrowingpains.com. Growing your business through change management. Change whispering.
Change whispering.
We were talking before about the people who are who don't necessarily enjoy working from home and would prefer to be in office. How do you think people are going to go when they start going back to the office?
It's a really interesting question, actually, Michael, because I doubt very much that most businesses have given much thought to what a significant change that is. So even if you haven't been enjoying being at home and yearn for the days of being back in the office, what that's actually going to look like for you when you go back is not going to be the same. It's just simply not going to be the same. Take, for example, the journos that were reporting last week on, just in Brisbane alone, the increase in peak hour traffic. Now, because people are not particularly willing to get back on public transport, although it sounds like it's empty, so perhaps you should just get back on public transport because that's probably your safest bet. But in the meantime, that alone has to be navigated. And then how do some of the questions that are going to come up is how leaders are going to then manage their on-site, off-site teams more effectively, what support they're going to need, does it actually change the dynamic? I think there's a lot of questions to be answered around that, and I'm sure that organisations haven't given it. It just, even on a risk basis, just have a brainstorm for 15-minute time-boxed exercise to say, we want to bring everybody back. What might that mean? Just get that brainstorm going so you've got a list of things you might think about later. What are your thoughts on it, Michael?
I think that some businesses are going to question whether they need an office or whether they can reduce their office footprint, because there are a lot of people more comfortable working from home and possibly more productive as well. They're able to deliver more value to their company by not doing that 1 hour commute, or by not worrying about what uniform they have to wear today. In saying that, I think that the change that we have to see is more, how does that hybrid model work? Because there are people, and I get this pretty much weekly, is when are you in the office next? And the response, the correct response is, I am in the office, I'm working, and what do you need? And let's have a call. But that is often met with, oh no, I meant when are you back in the office so that we can have a face-to-face meeting? And I think, from the people who prefer and are probably more productive working from home, as well as the people who are going back into the office, I think that we both need to make some changes to suit each other's work styles, and I think that with that we can all become more productive.
But I got a call to see a client tomorrow or the next day, and they said, oh, we really want you to come and meet all the team. We want you to meet the team at our office. So I left them to organise a time and the availability. But they're having trouble working out when people are in the office. And I said, why don't we just do this on Teams? Why don't we do this on Zoom? Because this is the way it's going to be.
That's exactly right. I think the sooner people can wrap their heads around this idea that really we've had a massive change, a shift in the way we do business, and we'd be crazy to be wanting to wind that completely back. Instead, perhaps we should be turning our attention to, now where are the gaps in what we've been doing. Some businesses have just done brilliantly well embracing this, and many people, as you say, are doing wonderfully well working from home. And let's set aside the people who have genuine issues at home that are going to block, like, domestic violence or those sorts of things. So set aside those people for a moment and look at all the rest that could comfortably work from home had they developed some better skills. So what we know to be true is, even when we were all working in offices, communication skills were still all over the shop like a mad woman's breakfast. Not everybody is a great and effective communicator. And we do run a lot of programs around effective communication for people who are working in the same, or, in the same room. So more of this, and now we're starting to talk to organisations about actually doing these programs online, and how are they actually building and maintaining their team with an online presence, particularly when they've got them across the globe. And it all really does dial back to communication. Like, say, if we say technology is squared away, everything works, most of the time. Now we've got to look to the softer skills that people are needing to develop to make sure they're getting the best out of the interactions that they do have and maintaining their motivation then when the meeting's ended and they have to go off and start doing delivery.
So really, one of the things you just raised was around motivation, and I think that's a really huge topic because it doesn't just cover motivation in business and in your day-to-day work life. It also covers motivation to, I mean, I prefer working from home, but I need to find motivation to get up and go for a walk every now and then. Whereas in the office, I'd have to get up, I'd have to get up and go to a meeting, or I'd have to go over to the printer. And, it helps you get up from your desk. Whereas motivation for some people is, are they motivated enough to get up for work in the morning rather than just staying in bed when they're working from home? Are they motivated to get out of their pajamas?
Well, the reality is if they're capable of working from bed and in their pajamas, then why do you care where they're actually working from? But I think without being trite, your point is, are they mentally getting their acts together to be an engaged and productive individual? And, there's a lot of talk going on in that mental health space, right? I wonder when organisations, when the psychology community is going to start to look at those sorts of issues about, let's just accept that this is the new way. Now, where are the gaps, like I called out before, and how are you going to help fill those and skill people up? People have demonstrated a willingness to change and an awareness of why they need to change. What I think we're seeing is a knowledge of how to maintain that change and how organisations can monitor the gains that they've made and help people continue to get better. We all talk about continuous improvement, but often it's about the product that we're selling our clients. What about the continuous improvement of the individuals? Sorry, just going to have a quick shout out to one thing that John Howard, as Prime Minister, did do in this country was put in place a training program that allowed, or in fact forced, organisations to invest in their people and their skilling of their people, as they've got tax deductions, awesome tax deductions. They had to spend a minimum per person. And that was a wonderful thing because it built great teams. It made people invest into soft skills because it wasn't all just about the technical skills. And I just wonder maybe whether some of that type of idea should be taken out of the bottom drawer, shaken off, and seen whether now is a time to reinvest into that sort of soft skilling.
Can I just say, with people working from home and the changes around that, businesses still need to think about cybersecurity. And Michael is going to raise his eyebrows and go, here we go again. But cybersecurity is still becoming, or no, not still, is becoming more and more of a threat. I was listening to the Minecraft cybersecurity webinar the other day. I was involved in that. And out of the 33 major data breaches in the Australian government last month, 29 were human error. 29 were people clicking on a link, were providing a password over the phone, were the typical human errors that we're still getting. And now people are working from home more and more. They're expecting us to be able to speak over the phone to ICT specialists, and they're asking these passwords. And with the number of phishing emails increasing by 20% over the last 6 months, we need to look at businesses, and businesses need to look inwards of how they're training their staff on cybersecurity and on the basic skills of cybersecurity.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, David, because it goes well beyond, I think some of us are used to getting the phishing emails and we'll ignore those. But there are so many different ways of getting in the door.
Yes, that's right.
To bring down your defences. And for every time we're at home and working from here, there's some naughty monkey out there working out a way of getting under our guard that sneaks their way past us somehow. So it's a great point, David.
Yeah, last week, with Virgin Global Wallet going down now, they've now separated. There's a number of evident global wallet emails coming out of Virgin saying you need to move your money, you need to break down, etc., etc. But I received 2 emails saying you need to move the money out of your account, your global wallet account, because I used to use Virgin a lot. And I'm thinking, I didn't know I had $2,962 left in there. And I nearly clicked on that link, and everything seemed so real. It was so real. They didn't ask me for anything. Just click on the link to go to the login page.
I think that's one of the things that the shift to so much online shopping has really opened up for, Joe Public. It's not that long ago where I used to very easily be able to ignore every single message that came from eBay, Amazon, Fish Pond, the ones from Toll and iPic, those ones that are saying you've got a delivery, you can't get it delivered, all of those things. I just hang up, ignore, delete. Now I've just started buying a little bit more, and so you've just got to be on. Do I recognise that? Is that bearing any relevance at all? And if it's not, the next thing is not click the button. It's pick up your old device and make a phone call to the number that you look up through the website, not on the bloody email, to make a phone call and find out whether it's legitimate. God forbid we all go back to a bit of old school security protocols to protect ourselves,
I ordered something from Germany the other week, and I got an SMS about 2 weeks later saying that there were duties due on it.
That cracker.
From the Australian government, and I looked at the SMS, and it seemed to make sense because it had the right information, or it had similarly right information. And then I was like, hang on a minute. So I emailed the company that sent it and said, what's the story here? They said, no, you don't need to. That's not correct. Don't click on that. But you're right. You've got to reach out, and you've got to be really suspicious about every email that comes in or every SMS that comes in.
So let's just have a Pollyanna conversation for a moment. If we were able to turn all the world's naughty monkeys into good monkeys, and they could use all their powers that they're currently using for naughtiness,
good,
evil for good, what would you do with it? Where would you focus these newly found good monkeys?
Can I ask a question on your question?
Sure.
Governments who are ethical hacking into other areas, are they good monkeys or bad monkeys?
Ooh. That's
ethical hacking. They're being told they have to do it. It's part of their job.
Yeah, I don't think there's any such thing as ethical spamming, though. Ethical spamming to make people.
No, I agree.
I mean, for me, these guys has obviously got talent. They know what they're doing, or they're good at following instructions. There's a whole ag tech environment where there's the world needs food, and building solutions that can provide that food through ag tech, whether it's through robotics or through research and development. That sort of thing is really important. There's a whole lot of stuff that people could put their brains to. I mean, just what David said before, cybersecurity and being able to move away from the bad stuff and go into something more ethical, whether it's either as a red team or a blue team in defense. They can actually get a lot of good, useful knowledge out of the people who have done this stuff, because they know how. These are the only people that really know how they're doing it. I couldn't tell you how to send a million SMSs out and get $500,000 in Bitcoin. I wouldn't know. Don't even know where to buy the Viagra from that these people sell from Nigeria.
I think if it was up to me, I'd stick them all onto one of my e-stores, and so that they could it boosts my sales through the roof? Or is that very personal, not very world thinking?
Well, I mean, yes, it is very personal and not very well thinking, but it is what it is, right? And I think that maybe somewhere in between those things lies the truth. I think the idea that we have underlying global issues like poverty, lack of access to water, food challenges, and so on and so forth, it could be arguably overcome if all the evil monkeys were turned to good and asked to put their attention to it. And some of those then could be starting to put their attention to the selling of those products in your store, David. Making sure. And so I think there is such opportunity that is lying at our doorstep that perhaps COVID has brought us a little bit closer to, and it won't happen in our lifetime, but if we could see some progress by governments to start that more expansive and global thinking and collaboration, then that would be awesome. I mean, every time I start these conversations with someone, then I'll have someone go, yeah, but China is, they're trying to manipulate the world economy, blah, 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 blah. We're all trying to manipulate, if that's the case.
Yeah, that's where it gets difficult. Who's manipulating who?
But perhaps it's a framing issue, if we could set aside that mindset that seems to be so programmed into us and start to think about manipulation, like influence, the word influence.
Influence, yeah.
The word manipulation, they mean the same thing. Manipulation has come to be more regarded as the evil manipulation. But the reality is that even if I'm influencing somebody to embrace a new piece of technology so that they can do their job properly, some would say I'm manipulating them. And I am. Right? So what if we just sort of reframed this conversation about global manipulation and started to think about what's the actual message? Anyway.
Yeah.
Man, that's like a
totally
2-hour podcast. We don't have enough time for that.
Where we might need to come
Michelle,
back
I
to that.
can see you coming back very shortly. Yeah. I think there's a whole thing about global customers and food waste, enterprise customers taking that food and not being able to sell it. I think we can have a longer conversation about manipulation and everything we're doing, everything we're saying. It's manipulation. Even in World War I, when we were dropping pieces of paper, it was all manipulation.
It was all influence. And where we get to with it is what then defines it as whether it's good or evil. And I just fundamentally, we need to be finding a way to be walking towards a more positive space. I think there's lots of interesting things going on in the world. It's lots of dark stuff going on that if it takes a little bit more darkness before the light can finally properly shine, then great. We're not going to start the conversation about US politics, but that's one that we can add on to that next podcast.
No, I think we're going to leave that one alone.
Leave it. All right. Well, with that, I think it's time to wrap up, and it's been really great to talk to you again, Michelle. We always enjoy talking to you. You're such a wealth of knowledge and ask so many incredible questions that keep us on our toes. So that's fine. That's fine by me. Thank you for coming on our podcast again.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. As always, it's a good laugh, some interesting conversation, and I do like to challenge us all to think a bit differently.
And I can't wait till we start challenging each other with the next episode. Look forward to having you back on. Thanks a lot, Michelle.
Do you want to grow your business but are struggling to start? At TeamScale, we believe technology is a way to solve business problems. Get in touch with our team for free advice about how to grow and scale your business through digital transformation. Visit teamscale.com/to learn more.